Angelman syndrome was discovered in the 1960s by Dr. Harry Angelman. Some distinguishing characteristics of Angelman syndrome are stiff, jerky body movements, such as hand flapping. Also, people with Angelman syndrome exhibit lots of laughter and happiness, seizures, and hyperactivity. Many adults with Angelman can participate in common activities like household chores or activities of daily living. They can also participate in recreational activities like playing games or exercising. But some people with Angelman syndrome have more severe mental delays, especially if they are prone to having seizures often. Hyperactivity and a short attention span are continuously common in people with Angelman syndrome. Speech is very uncommon in people with Angelman syndrome. Conversational speech does not develop in children, even when they are high-functioning. Communicational skills vary in people with Angelman's. Some pick up nonverbal cues strongly, even using sign language, and they may have a noticeable desire to communicate. Other individuals with Angelman syndrome may become frustrated when they can't communicate effectively, and they may hurt themselves in response to this by doing things like pulling their hair. In addition, some of the traits of Angelman syndrome overlap with traits of autism, so this connection should be acknowledged. Some people with Angelman's may also be autistic. Finally, a person with Angelman syndrome may have abnormal sleeping habits. Specifically, they may not sleep for very long, or they may wake up several times during the night. In the United States, most children with Angelman syndrome are Caucasian. Angelman syndrome is found throughout the world, though, in many cultures and racial and ethnic groups. Through several different studies, it is often quoted that 1 in 12,000 to 1 in 20,000 children and young adults have Angelman syndrome. The numbers vary from country to country. Currently, there is no documentation on how many newborns have Angelman's. The studies that have been done noted children ages 6 to 13 who are diagnosed with Angelman's. Additionally, there may be some people with Angelman syndrome who are undiagnosed, so the exact incidence of Angelman syndrome is presently unknown. Usually, Angelman syndrome cannot be diagnosed right at birth, and this is due to the criteria and the characteristics for the syndrome. Children with Angelman syndrome may have a wide mouth with a protruding chin, but they usually do not have any other outstanding physical features. The following criteria make up the diagnosis for Angelman syndrome, although a child does not have to exhibit all of the criteria to be diagnosed. There's a developmental delay, balance problems and distinctive movements such as jerky motions, unique behaviors such as frequent laughter and smiling or happiness and excitement, a speech impairment or the use of few words, seizures, an abnormal sleep and wake cycle, or a lack of need for sleeping, and a fascination to certain objects. The origin of Angelman syndrome is recent. In 1965, a doctor from England, Dr. Harry Angelman, noticed 3 children in his hospital who had distinguishable and similar characteristics. Dr. Angelman knew these children had some sort of disability, but at the time their diagnosis was not determined. These children all showed stiff, jerky movements, seizures, constant laughter, and an absence of speech. These children all had characteristics that make up what is now called Angelman syndrome. Dr. Angelman eventually published an article on these 3 children, naming it The Puppet Children, after a painting he saw while on holiday in Italy. The painting was of a child that reminded Angelman of the 3 children he saw, as it showed much laughter and jerky movements. The Puppet Children title was revised to Angelman syndrome. Following Dr. Angelman's observations and writings, Dr. Ellen McGinnis of Oregon Health Science Center documented children who had microdeletions of chromosome 15. Although these children were thought to have Prader-Willi syndrome, these discoveries by Dr. McGinnis, as well as the children's developmental delays and seizures, led to their diagnosis of Angelman syndrome. Because of this research, it is now known that Angelman syndrome can be caused by a chromosome deletion, and the Angelman syndrome gene, UBE3A, was isolated. Presently, there is research being conducted on how the abnormalities of UBE3A can cause a developmental delay and an impact on the brain. Because of the unique behaviors within children with Angelman syndrome, it is common for families to have a specific communicational and behavioral plan in place for their child. Early intervention specialists, doctors, and other resources can help to identify a child with Angelman syndrome, as well as help to determine a plan for the family, as these plans are very specific to each family. It is common for a family to distinguish a plan to communicate successfully and effectively with their child with Angelman syndrome. Using strategies such as sign language or picture boards may help to communicate, as these are nonverbal ways. Furthermore, a behavioral plan may be established. While children with Angelman's are oftentimes happy, they can exhibit behaviors that may be physically damaging to themselves. A behavior plan specific to the child would help to diminish these harmful behaviors and promote acceptable, more healthy behaviors. Once a plan is in place, the family will hopefully feel better about their child's unique behaviors. And if the family ever needs a boost of happiness, their child or sibling with Angelman syndrome could quite possibly easily brighten their day. An excellent resource for families with children with Angelman syndrome is the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. This foundation raises funds and promotes awareness for Angelman syndrome. It also provides information and resources through its website. Additionally, there are national walks for Angelman syndrome to increase awareness and raise money for research. The Angelman Syndrome Foundation's website has specifics on the walk and its various locations throughout the United States. Thank you.